Asking anybody to talk about a profession is like asking a doctor, tell me about doctoring. He says, well, what kind of doctor do you want? You know? And it's the same way with private investigators. It's so broad, and it's a building career field, and it's so broad that people have found it necessary, and from a business standpoint and everything else, to specialize. So how do I tell you about all this stuff in just an hour or so? And I have no idea how long this is going to take. So let's. What I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about what I call the TV paradigm, because a lot of you, you're trying to write characters, and your editors and people in the publishing business who probably don't read, they probably see a lot of TV. Well, they think that's the way firemen are, that's the way cops are, that's the way lawyers are supposed to be. And you see the same kind of character, I think, with Private Eyes. There's a show that I think it's syndicated, Private Eyes, right now. Absolutely abysmal. But I've never met any private eyes that look like these people. But then I'll talk about them in a minute. So I'm going to talk about the TV paradigm, and I'm going to go through that so you understand, and I'll counter it with my view of each of the elements, of 10 elements or so of the TV paradigm, the TV cliche. And now I'll talk a little bit about what my business is like, how do you become a PI, who becomes a PI, and the kind of jobs they do. And I'll talk a little bit about what happens when I take on a client. Then I've got a couple of war stories if we have time. So what's the PI cliche? Well, first on guns. Guns. In that Private Eye thing, the guy, I think it's not Jason Patrick, but it's one of those. And his shoulders are this wide because of the padded shoulders, but he's got the slim little thing, like there's no definition between his pants and his belt. I mean, he's just so slim, and he gets into a fight, and all of a sudden he's got the largest 45 automatic you've ever seen. I don't know where he had that, and his partner, who was always wearing high fashion dresses, comes up with an equally large one. I'm not even going to speculate where she had it. Well, I'll go through the thing, but it's always snub-nosed 38s. And truth in advertising, I'll admit, I do have a snub-nosed 38 because I just had that. But 45s, all kinds of the flashiest, shiny gun. No real gun usually uses a shiny, flashy gun. Days full of action, fist fights, car chases, right? Haven't been on a car chase yet. And all kinds of, part of the paradigm is unethical tools of trade. They're picking locks, they're breaking in, they're taking evidence, they're planting evidence. Oh, my client has told himself, I've got this old throwaway gun, I'll put it in his hand. Or I come across the dead guy and I'm going to go through his desk, or I call it. That's an excellent way to go to jail and to lose one's license. The trench coats, this is very much, hello, music too, very much kind of your pulpy kind of things. Carol John Daly, Race Williams, who's very big in Black Mask and stuff in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. But you can see he's got two great big guns. He's got a trench coat on. I mean, that's the paradigm. But the only paradigm buster you can think of was that guy out in Hawaii. But he was setting up his own, his own paradigm. And now everybody's got to have a red Ferrari. And in Rockford, he didn't carry a gun because he said, there's nobody I want to shoot. But he did lots of unethical things. He did things like he was always printing up business cards in the back of his Firebird, so he could pretend to it is. And that there's a principle of the law called false pretenses. And you can get yourself in a lot of trouble for doing that within certain amount of scope. So you got trench coats, you got fedoras, you got badges. I brought some badges. They used to supply a lot of badges for private eyes. This is in the 50s, the 30s, 40s, 50s. They're throwing stuff at me already. 30s, 40s. So this is a real private eye badge from a guy in Kentucky. There's some. This is probably a hat badge. A lot of these guys were in the security business too, so they would have guards, security guards, and even though this says private eye kind of thing, your detective agency, this is probably a hat badge because it's got that thing in the back. Ditto with that. This is a wallet badge from Texas that they used to carry. They don't anymore. And these, you know, if you ever heard the term buzzer, you know, that's a guy when he badge you with something. These are buzzers from the 30s and 40s. They're plain. You know, Webster's Detective Agency and just a private detective, and I think that's Iowa in the middle. Well, of course, when I was younger, I had to buy my badge. You know, I needed a badge, and I wasn't a private investigator, but I needed one that said I was. And this is patently illegal now to badge somebody because it looks like a police badge, a law enforcement badge. It's got an enameled seal of Colorado in the middle. And if I went, can you tell me about that? Cop, right? We'll talk about that, why that's illegal. You always, you know, a lot of unethical behavior, you know, like picking locks and things like that, taking snoopy pictures. They're always close to, you know, digging up dirt, leaning on people. I've actually had somebody, maybe we'll talk about that, ask me to lean on somebody once. And they have that. That's the police records, and it's not true. Anybody who says they do is on the tightrope, I think. They're close to the crooks. You know, they know all the crooks, but they're at odds with the police, although they might have a special friend in the police that tells them things. They have sexy girlfriends who are also nightclub singers. They have sassy secretaries, and they have a sidekick partner who's dumb. Everybody's got to have a Watson. They're very flexible ethics, you know, stealing and planting evidence kinds of things. And they go on one person or one car surveillance and never lose anybody. And that's so hard to do. I was reading a story the other day about a CIA surveillance in Washington, D.C. during training. They had 4 people in it, and they still lost. The FBI's standard is 5. You got car ahead, cars on parallel streets, car back here, somebody to fill in. It's very, very difficult with, you know, you're following somebody 3 cars ahead and you don't make the red light. And he goes. So, and of course, bourbon and cigarettes. I consider myself a small businessman in the confidential information business. And I have rent to pay. I have insurance bills. I have fees, training fees, internet bill, taxes. I pay, you know, income tax and self-employment tax. I'm in a sole proprietor business, so I don't. There's some things I get away from versus somebody who's normally in business, but still I have to pay all that stuff. And very seldom do you hear of a written detective who is you know, worrying about rent or taxes, or he's got his license fee kinds of things. We have real ethics. We follow the Colorado Bar Association ethics. There are a few exceptions. Lawyers have, believe it or not, have to tell the truth all the time. And but I can, in limited circumstances, I can lie. I can do a little false pretenses in order to pull information. But the Colorado law is very specific. A private investigator, a common citizen, has absolutely no law enforcement privileges as far as carrying a gun, no arrest privileges, no access to police records, those kinds of things. There's some things I can find out that you can't as a common citizen because there's some very large databases that are open only to private investigators that have a license and have the kinds of things that says that they're in business. I have a surety bond I have to pay for every year. It protects the money that the client gives me as a retainer. So if I don't produce, they can hit that surety bond and get their money back. Let's see, but I still do work early and late hours.